Today, this 19-year-old TikToker thinks she's running for president. Let's take a listen to her ideas.
I'm 19 and running for president of the United States.
So I'm gonna let you finish, but you're actually not, because that would be illegal. The Constitution requires you to be 35 years old or older to run for president. Now, she clarifies that she's running for president in 2040. We're not off to a great start, but let's hear her out.
What I'm gonna do when I'm elected. So I've had a lot of people ask about my platform, and you can read the full thing in the link in my bio, but I'll go over the 5 key points. So the first thing I want to do is I want to eliminate all corporate lobbying. I want to end insider trading. I want to make the government less corrupt. And the main driving force of this would be a law that I'd sign that would limit campaign contributions to $1,000 a person and ban corporations from funding our elections.
So our not great start has actually gotten less great. First, ban corporate lobbying. Look, I think we'd all like less corporate influence in our politics, but you actually just can't do that. The First Amendment specifically names and guarantees the right to petition your government for redress as a constitutional right that all people, even those who work for corporations, are entitled to. Corporations do have a constitutional right to request the government to shape certain policies in certain ways or to make different choices. And I mean, they're affected by the policies and rules that governments make. So, I mean, they should have a right to have their voice heard. So the idea that you can or should ban them from lobbying is not correct. Second, when she talks about ending insider trading, if what she means is congressional stock trading, I'm actually open to that. I do think it's highly suspicious how people like Nancy Pelosi get inside information, but also are buying and selling individual stocks, and then they're beating the market. Now, Congress overall doesn't beat the market, but certain individuals do. So I'd be totally open to a rule saying, you have to have general funds or a blind trust or something. You can't personally, or your spouse or your brother or something like that, can't personally trade individual stocks. I think that'd be reasonable. And maybe she's onto something with that one. But then the thing about limiting campaign contributions to $1,000 per person, they're already limited to, I think, $3,300 per person per election. So that's not a huge difference. And that $2,000 isn't what's currently shaping politicians' influence. The real thing is the super PAC spending, which you can't actually limit because of Citizens United, which is a Supreme Court case, a Supreme Court decision that the president can't change. So there's just a lot that's off here, to be honest. But there's more.
The second thing I want to do is make the economy fairer for all. I want to break up big monopolies that are causing our prices to be sky high, which will drive down inflation and bring down your grocery bill.
Oh boy. Well, if only somebody had thought of the idea to make the economy fairer. Here too, our friend is quickly going off track and losing the plot, because this idea that corporate monopolies are the reason prices have gone up, babe. No, market concentration did not change from 2020 to 2021. There wasn't suddenly more monopolies, and that's why prices went up. That's not how that works. Market concentration in the US hasn't meaningfully changed for decades, yet prices have rapidly risen over the last few years. And that's because it's not about monopolies or corporate greed. It's about over-stimulus spending. It's about printing money by the central bank. It's about global supply chains and so many other things. But you've got a fake scapegoat behind this high prices problem. And so if that's what your solution is aimed at, it's not actually going to do anything or help anybody.
And the third thing I want to do is secure human rights for all, both constitutionally mandated rights, and make food a human right, water a human right, and end discrimination once and for all.
Oh boy. So just everything is going to be free, and we're all going to have human rights to everything we need. That doesn't sound naive or utopian at all. But you don't actually have a human right to food or water or shelter, because those are things that other people have to work to provide. No, as an adult, you have human rights, but you have negative human rights. You have the right to not be harmed physically by someone else. You have the right to not be censored by your government. You have the right to not have your property stolen, but you are not entitled to anything. You don't have a right to someone else's labor, to someone else's resources, to resources that don't just magically appear and can never be made free. As an adult, it is your job to provide for yourself and meet your own needs, not force other people to meet them for you in the name of some fictional right. And hilariously, we're going to have free everything, and everything's going to be human right, but we're also going to have lower taxes. Let's listen.
The fourth thing I want to do is lower taxes for the people, end corporate tax loopholes for the rich, secure the minimum wage by tying it to inflation.
I've been over this data on this show many times, but the rich already pay the vast majority of federal taxes. You can't squeeze much more out of them. Corporate taxes, if you increase those just affect workers. They're borne out through lower wages and fewer jobs. So there is no meaningful way to have huge new federal entitlements and programs without any new taxes for the working class or the middle class or anything like that. This is Delulu land, not actual policy.
And the last thing I want to do is I want to shift our foreign policy from a world of war to a world of peace, essentially aggressively negotiating with places instead of going to war with them, ending the arming of oppressive regimes, and spending our budget on the people instead of the rich and war. Comment below if you have any questions.
I have many questions, but I don't think you have answers, unfortunately. Now, maybe you will by 2040, but so far, I've got to be honest, not super impressed. There is just this naive, youthful nature I observe with a lot of these TikTokers where they think that this stuff is actually cut and simple. It's actually not complicated or hard. And they know the solutions, right? All the generations that came before them just couldn't see how obvious it is to just fix things. We just need a foreign policy focused on peace instead of war. Nobody's ever thought of that before. What did you think of this young woman's political campaign? Do let me know in the comments below.